stat taking, the importance of the software connected with, and why it's so important that if you're an SID, you have a stat taker, you are the stat taker, and especially you get those stats to the people who need them the most, the media, coaches, people like them. Jenna Wilhoit and I have been working together off and on since we were both at Xavier and we were both at the scorers table. And she is now, let me get this title right, Assistant Director of Athletic Communications at the University of Dayton. Jenna, thanks so much for being with us today and being our guest.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So I want to talk about the world of statistics and why it's so important. And I don't care if it's men's basketball, I don't care if it's football, I don't care if it's golf, I don't care if it's rugby. You need stats. Talk first about the importance of statistics, not just to the club and the group and the school, but that goes out to the media, it goes to your conference. Tell us why stat taking, especially accurate stat taking, is so important.
Well, there's lots of different reasons, and you can go in many different directions. You mentioned most of them. Your coaches use it for preparing for matches and seeing what's working and what's not working within the match. Media people use it to write recaps, releases, update social media. Your SID uses it for similar reasons. Also to keep records of, your best players and career records for your school. And then your conference and the NCAA does the same thing. They keep records. It's a record keeping tool for long-term, finding out, who has the career record for this stat or this stat. And you can reference all of that going back when you're reporting as well. People will ask, well, when was the last time so-and-so had a triple-double? And then you go back to your stats and you can look it up. So those are some main reasons. Websites, and now, with social media, everybody wants up-to-date notifications and knowing what's going on with games. And so when you have live stats generating through the internet, you can do those updates right up to the second.
And for those of you who perhaps have worked on StatRow, on a scores table, you know the different ways that you keep stats. There is always a book. We are still, with the book, writing down starters. You have that, but there's also software. And I know there have been advancements and changes in software. So tell us the ways that you keep statistics.
Yeah, so you mentioned the scorebook. In basketball and volleyball, for sure, that is the official record of the game. And no matter what you have in your stats computer, they go still by the official handwritten scorebook, which is sometimes frustrating because it's not always correct. But down the table a little ways, you'll have some people on a computer and probably some headsets talking to each other. The original, when I first started, the original format was a program called Automated Scorebook, or Stat Crew. It's a DOS-based program, if you can imagine that, still using a DOS-based program even to this day. And that's how I learned how to do stats for volleyball, softball, baseball, soccer, basketball, all of those sports. And but recently, the NCAA contracted with a company over in Europe who had already been using a Windows-based program for basketball over there. And so they contracted with this company to create a program that we can use. So now we have a Windows-based program, cloud-based, and you can use it as a touchscreen, or you can use a mouse. So it's no longer a keystroke system, which is what we used before. And while, it still has its issues, they're working everything out with that. We use it, or I use it for volleyball and basketball. We use it for soccer at Dayton. And they just started football this year. It's the first year for football of, it's called NCAA Live Stats, created by a company called Genius. And everything, like I said, is cloud-based. So it automatically uploads your game files. So after the end of the game, we always had to email out the stat files to each SID to be able to send those out and populate websites and stuff. But now it just goes up to the cloud, and you just download it, and it's super easy when it works properly. But technology can be a punk sometimes, and doesn't work out properly. But I will say it has come a long way from DOS-based system. But we do still use that program, Stat Crew, for baseball and softball. They have not created a new program for that yet, but we have heard that it is in the works.
And you mentioned that statistics are so important just because fans want to know. This is one of those categories that I always say that you cannot give fans enough information. And whether it's, again, whatever the sport, I think that the more information that a fan gets, the more connected that fan is to the program, to the school, to the player. And so you want that. You want to feed them that information. So how do you get the information, those stats, to the fans? Is this something that maybe you have a link on social media? Do you include it in like email updates, or how do you really feed the fans the information that they want?
Okay, so we at University and pretty much of everywhere will provide a live stats link for each of their games. Usually it'll be housed on their schedule page on their website at all times, so you can go there and click. In general, best practice is to also post those links across all social media accounts. So a lot of times people will, instead of going to the website, we'll go to the social media account, and if the game is being streamed, you'll have your live stats link, your streaming link. If there's an audio broadcast, that link will be on there. And then otherwise, for some programs, they'll be on like actual TV, like network TV, or across the airwaves on radio, and you can't really link to that, but it'll be on there. So how that works is, I'm guessing everyone in the class has seen a box score, right? So the computer programs that we use generate that box score. So one program that University of Dayton uses is called statbroadcast.com. And anyone can go to statbroadcast.com and see what events are on there, and you click on it, and if it's not password protected, you can see the live stats. And so each time we create a keystroke or click on the screen, that is inputting a stat that then gets sent to the cloud, the magical cloud, and generates the information in that live stat screen that anyone at home or wherever can see. So each time a rebound is recorded, a missed shot, a made shot, in volleyball, any attack or set or dig, that will automatically update, and it automatically populates within the box score online. So that's generally how we do the overall box score. But then also in social media, people generally will do updates like text updates, or create a graphic or a photo and say, oh, after set one, Jamie Peterson has 10 kills to lead the Flyers. So that's also another way that just like stat blurbs get sent out. In addition to the actual live stat screen, is just text updates via social media.
Right. And for those of you who are thinking about working in the media, whether it's a broadcast or whether it's a print, I put quotes around print, social, whatever, on many press rows, you will have a live monitor there. And that helps you write your game story. And especially if you're broadcasting, it makes such a difference if you have those live stats right there. So you and your play-by-play person, or you and your color analyst person, you can give those stats immediately. And so it makes such a difference when there's that live monitor there for the live broadcast. So Jenna, you talked about the different sports, and of course the stats are different for different sports, and you record different things. So I guess a very general question is, how do you get to be a good stat person?
A lot of practice, honestly. I mean, when I first started, I'd never seen a volleyball match in person. Like, when I first went to grad school back in, I went to grad school at U of L, and it was 2005. I had literally never seen a volleyball match in person. My high school didn't have it. When I was in college, I didn't really care about it. And so I had to learn, like I had to learn all the rules of the game. I had to learn what the official signals meant. You know, when they blew their whistle and they did this, or they did this, or they do this, I had to learn, and it took practice. You know, you don't, especially with volleyball, you don't just learn it overnight, because it's not like basketball or football that people grow up watching, you know, on their TV every weekend. Well, at least it wasn't for me. So I just, the first, I will tell this story because I tell it all the time. The first time I ever started a volleyball match, I cried in the I cried in the middle of the match, because we were using that DOS-based program I was talking about, and I was hitting the keys, and it wouldn't take it. It wouldn't take it. The match is still going. I mean, the ball is just going back and forth. I'm 3 points behind. I pushed the computer away. I started crying, and I said, I quit. And like my boss like snatched the computer out of my hand and was like feverishly trying to catch up. But yeah, I mean, you kind of got to just be thrown into the fire and figure it out. I mean, it took me a while. I mean, I'm pretty good at it now, but I still make mistakes. But to learn it, you just have to do it. I mean, there's really no other way.
It's good to hear that you recovered from that. And you
Goodness.
still made a career out of it.
Yes.
So what advice, besides actually being thrown into the fire, what advice would you give the students about stat taking? Because as I said, there are so few jobs that this is all you do and you're not going to do anything else. If you're an SID, you write, you schedule, you stat take, you do a little bit of everything. And so especially starting out, a lot of these students are going to be doing a little bit of everything when they get that first job, whether it's high school or college or wherever. You have to know a little bit of everything. So what advice would you give them to really help them prepare for an SID job, or on a college staff where, again, like you cover 3 or 4 sports every year. So you have to have a base knowledge of a little bit of everything. So give us some advice.
Yeah. So I would say, if possible, while you're still in school, to go, you know, to the SID office there at Ball State. I know a couple of people that work in there. I can give you some contact information, and just ask them like, hey, can I come and learn? Can I come to a match and sit here with you and see what you're doing with the computer, hear the words you're saying, because you have a spotter and you have an inputter. So someone has to say what's happening and someone has to type what's happening. And the only way that you learn how to do that is by doing it. So the first suggestion I would say is to go to your sports information office. And if, you know, I'm not sure, Betsy, how your class works, if people are all remote and maybe they're living somewhere else, wherever their town is, just go to their nearest college and ask to come and sit with them during a game and see how things work. Because like in volleyball, you have to say and input something every time someone touches the ball, and you don't just pick that up. You know, I have my students do it and they get so nervous, and I'm like, you just gotta keep saying words, like just say numbers and we'll figure it out. So I would definitely say being there, volunteering, trying it out, just asking if you can shadow or at least sit in, and then eventually be able to actually do some of the actions. I also suggest that you study, especially, you know, a sport other than basketball where you kind of know what all the signals the referee might give. Study the referee signals. That's one thing I really had to do a lot with volleyball is, you know, when the referee does this is an illegal attack. So you have to know that this is what he's calling to be able to put in the correct outcome of the play to make sure the stats are correct. So another thing I would suggest would be definitely to, you know, review the officials' signals and what they mean, and just the rules in general. Like for volleyball, they have a defensive player that can come in and out, and it's not counted toward a substitution. So like if you didn't know that, you'd see this player running in and off the court and you'd be like, wait, am I supposed to put her in? Like, what's going on? You know, so just little nuances of this, of different sports. Like, I know nothing about lacrosse. If I had to go stat lacrosse, I would be in trouble. So I would need to learn, and the men's game is different from the women's game. So it's like you have to learn two different games. So just knowing the nuances and the rules of the game and what the official signals mean are also very important. So that would be my two tips.
I'm with you with lacrosse. I've called lacrosse for 15 years now, and we still, everybody in the press box looks at each other and goes, what was that? I mean, we still do after 15 years. It's, and just when you think they've got the rules down, then they change the rules. So I am with you there, but right, you have to sit there. And Jenna, that brings up a really good point that sometimes you have to volunteer. You're not going to get paid for everything, but the experience that you get is so much more worth the $8 or $10 or whatever you would get for being paid. So please don't think that if you're volunteering and it's not going to be worth it. It absolutely will be worth it, but sometimes you have to give up some time and not get paid and just get your feet on the ground, get your foot in the door, let them know and let them see how hard you will work and how hard you will learn to make sure that you are, you know, a good student, a good learner, a good volunteer, and that will pay off in the end. Jenna, how many interns do you have in the sports department? Just off the top of your head, how many interns will you have?
In our office in athletics communication. So do you mean like student workers or like an actual paid internship position?
I'm an internship period. I mean, I know you have a lot of student workers and that's really how that department runs, but an internship in particular.
Okay, so there are 4 of us who are full-time, and then we have one position that is sort of like an intern position. It's 10 months. So it is paid and full benefits, but it's only for 10 months of the year. So 2 months out of the year, he does not get paid. And then we do sometimes have students who do an internship for credit. So they do not get paid, but they get credit towards their coursework. We do not have anyone doing that right now this semester, but we have had those in the past. There's no like set number that we have who do that, but we do like to help out, you know, students when they're trying to get credit toward their degree. Right. Otherwise, we just rely on student workers. We have about 10 that we kind of use in the office and events. So one thing with the University of Dayton, they have kind of told us that they don't want us using volunteers, you know, people who aren't getting paid or getting credit for their classes. But I mean, it's impossible sometimes, you know, to function without saying, hey, I'm short this person, can you come help me today for free, basically. So we do utilize our friends sometimes. But, you know, when I was in grad school, I did volunteer internships. I worked at that one year, there was an ABA basketball team in Louisville, Kentucky Colonels. That would have been like 05, 06. I think, and I did everything. I did scout filming, I did shot clock, I did all this stuff. And I realized I didn't want to do none of that stuff. And that shot clock, I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. I was so nervous. I was like, I'm not gonna get this right. But after the game, one of the players was like, I thought we had a little advantage. No wonder it was you doing the shot clock. We had some extra time. I was like, it wasn't on purpose. And then after that, I did an internship with the Louisville Fire Arena football team, and it was unpaid. And one of the things was required was doing cold calling for group sales tickets. And I found out I didn't want to do that either. So I think that volunteering and doing internships are a way to not only figure out what you do want to do, but also a way to figure out what you don't want to do. And that way you don't go take a job thinking, oh man, I'm going to work in the ticket office and it's going to be awesome. And then you get there and you have to do sales calls and you're like, this is not for me. So I would definitely recommend volunteering, internship, paid or unpaid, for credit or not credit, whatever you can get your hands on. Because like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life until I did all these internships. And I found out a lot of things I did not like doing, for sure.
And that's good advice. Find out what you don't want to do before you graduate, because once you graduate, it's hard to make that left turn and change. So, Jenna, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it. And if anybody wants to follow up, can I post your email if they have
Yes.
any other questions?
Yep,
Excellent.
that's
I will
totally
do
fine.
that. I will do that. The email will be up on our class page. Jenna, thank you so much. Jenna took a half hour out of her vacation to join us this week. So Jenna, go back to the beach, have a wonderful vacation. And again, thanks so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.